Want to be a better leader? Here's a surprising truth. It's not about saying more, it's about saying less. Leaders who fill every silence with words, usually miss the most important signals. But the best leaders, they talk less, they pause more, and they listen. Welcome back to the Strategy Spark podcast. This is a Spark Short, your bite sized learning in under 10 minutes. And today we are unpacking why silence, listening, and pauses are the secret weapons of leadership, especially when you are navigating politics, silos, or senior stakeholders. Most new leaders think their job is to be the loudest voice in the room, to always have the answer. But in my opinion, the more you talk, the less you learn, right? When you rush to fill every silence, you miss those hidden objections, the hesitations, the undercurrents, those body languages. You really miss them. You do not pick up those clues. Think about it. In office politics, what's not said usually matters more than what is said. So if you want to lead better, you need to get comfortable with the pause, with asking a question and letting the silence do its work. Sometimes they say the quote, silence is golden, because silence invites honesty. Silence creates space for truth. Let me get a little bit real here. If we talk about office politics and silos, in today's world, I think every leader faces them. You cannot really get away from them if you're working in a big corporate, for say. Teams protecting the turf, departments competing, executives playing chess while you are trying to get work done. Sounds familiar? Here's the mistake. Leaders try to talk their way through resistance. But if you pause, if you actually listen, people will tell you what they are really afraid of. Example, you're pitching, say, a cross-functional initiative, and the finance team resists. If you bulldoze with more words, you just feel their pushback. If you pause and ask, well, what's your biggest concern? Maybe you will learn it's not about rejecting your idea, it's about protecting their own budget. Once you know the real fear, now you can reframe the problem. And that is not talking more. That's actually talking less, listening more. Let's take an example of executives. And what no one tells you, that executives don't always want the smartest person in the room. They really don't. They want the person who makes them feel heard. You really have to hear them. We can walk in with the best strategy deck, but if you don't pause long enough to hear their priorities, you will miss the mark. Great leaders don't dominate the conversation. They don't. They actually don't. Believe me, they don't. They frame the story. They pause, they read the room, and then let the silence work for them. Because silence shows confidence. Silence makes people lean in, and silence creates space for agreement. And finally, let's bring this back to your team. Leadership isn't just about strategy, it's about human trust. Your people don't need you to lecture every day, right? They need you to listen. They really do. A pause after someone shares a concern signals, yes, I hear you. I am thinking with you. A pause before answering shows, yes, I value your words enough to respond with care. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can really do or say as a leader is nothing. Because that silence tells your team this space belongs to you too. So here's the takeaway. If you want to lead better, talk less and pause more. Because the mark of a very and a great leader isn't how much they say, it's how deeply they listen. That's your spark shot for today. Well, if this resonated, share it with a fellow leader, subscribe to the Strategy Spark podcast, and remember, sometimes the strongest voice in the room is the quietest one. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.